have any questions, please direct your questions to the chat function. The chat function can be accessed by the icons at the bottom of your screen. The third one from the right looks like a little thought bubble. If you hit that little thought bubble, a window will pop up with a field where you can type your questions. So feel free to ask your questions in those chat sessions. And once Jermaine's done with his presentation, we'll move into the Q&A, and he'll be available to answer your questions. So with that said, Jermaine, I'm going to kick it over to you and let you get rolling, man.
Outstanding. Thank you. And welcome to everyone that's able to join. So my name is Jermaine Gambrell, and I was asked to give a 30-minute overview of the Society of Black Professionals. However, as you'll see shortly as I go through the slides, I have a pretty diverse background. So if there's any question that you'd like to ask me specific to Corning, I'll be more than happy to do my best to answer that. So I'll give you the legal disclaimer there. Take a look at that. So it's not that I'm going to be sharing anything that's too high powered, but just want you to be aware of that. So a little bit about me. I've been with Corning now 19 years. I joined back in 2001 as an OEM marketing specialist. I've worked in marketing. I've worked in product line management. I've worked in distribution. I've worked in sales management. I've had numerous roles throughout my career. So again, even though today I'm going to be speaking about an employee resource group, the Society of Black Professionals, if you just have generic questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So we're going to go through about 10 or 11 slides. That should get us about 15 or 20 minutes in as far as this 30-minute session, and I'll make sure that I leave some time in case you have questions. As far as my education and military, I graduated from Morehouse College a long time ago with a BA in finance, and I have an MBA in global business from the University of Dallas. The only reason I bring that up is because Corning actually funded my MBA. They paid for everything, so that was one of the benefits of being a part of this company. Prior to Corning, I served as an officer in the United States Marine Corps. I think I did 6 years of active duty service. And today, I do work from home. I've always worked from home, so it's not just a function of the pandemic. But been married for 24 years and got a daughter that just graduated from college last year and a son that's doing his thing. We've got a dog 10 years old, and we're living down here in Frisco, Texas, in case any of you folks are in Texas. And the last thing I'll say about me is, kind of into running, some golf, try to do some things on the side, which is important. Whether you're going to be joining Corning or going somewhere else, you always have to find something else that you can do. And I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. If any of you are Patriots fans or anything else, just kind of stay on mute. That's okay. And I always like to throw some books in there that I've read. And these are pretty old books, but these are books to me that will help you in your career if you see any value in them. The goal is very interesting because it's about solving problems and bottlenecks. It's a manufacturing book. I never thought I'd read one, but it's probably one of the best books I ever read. And then there's Outliers about Malcolm Gladwell, which I thought was a pretty impressive book as well. So if you haven't read these maybe, these are two books that I would recommend that you read prior to either starting your career in corporate America or joining Corning, because they just open your mind to think a different way. So before I begin, are there any questions? And you may be on mute, so you may have to unmute if you have any questions about me or things I've done at Corning before I move on.
So Jermaine, at this point, we don't have any questions thus far.
No problem. I'll keep going. So as I mentioned earlier, ERGs, an employee resource group. So diversity and inclusion is extremely important at Corning. We've had a 50+ year commitment to diversity and inclusion, and the various employee resource groups, they support the diversity and inclusion initiatives. So we're kind of think of it as you have the ERG groups, which are made up of the employees, and then you have the diversity and inclusion initiatives, which are typically run by a certain office, and we work together for a common goal and to make Corning the best company possible. Right now, there's roughly 18 ERGs, and there's about 62 total chapters around the world. Corning is a global company. You're going to hear that throughout this presentation. and really need to drive that home, because this is not just about Corning, New York, or Texas, or the US. These are global programs. And ERGs are open to all employees. So just because it says Society of Black Professionals doesn't mean that you have to be Black to join the group. That's not what this is about. We make sure that it's an inclusive organization and that anyone and everyone that wants to participate has that opportunity. Some ERGs, just to name a few, I kind of wrote a few down. You have disability, you have LGBTQ, you have women ERGs, you have African American, you have Asians, veterans, and that's just to name a few. So to let you know how diverse it is. And we just want to make sure that we meet the needs of our constituents in order to make Corning the best company possible. And don't ever get this confused. It's always about the company. It's always about putting our best foot forward so that we can move the company along, because that's why we're all here. All right, so the Society of Black Professionals, this is one of the oldest ERGs. It's been around for 40 plus years. Obviously, I wasn't around back then, but it's been here, and they've been working closely with Corning to develop our constituents, our individuals, and the focus has solely been on recruiting, development, support, and retention of Black employees. I'm not going to get into any politics or what have you, but just turn on the internet, read the news. You can see what's going on around the world. This lets you know how important diversity and inclusion is. And we recognize that at Corning, and this is something that we're serious and that we're focused on. And that's why the company supports these various groups. We have a huge voice. We sit down with Wendell, our CEO. We sit down with our vice chair and our sponsor, who is Larry McCray. And we work with various people throughout the company in order to make sure that we're recruiting the right people. And these aren't people that aren't qualified. These are people that are qualified. We're helping to develop them. We're helping to position them in various opportunities and roles so that not only can they be successful, but the company can be successful. This is extremely important. We also play a role in the community. So it's not just about what we're doing to generate revenue. We want to be a beacon in the community, and we want to be seen. So whether it's MLK Day or Juneteenth, which just happened on Friday, or the Diversity and Inclusion Conference, which unfortunately was canceled this year. It was scheduled to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we have this thing called pandemic that we can't travel right now. So that's kind of on hold. We have an Ernie Davis Christmas Magic. And the reason I mention that is because that's going out into the community. That's working with some of the younger kids that are maybe they don't come from the same backgrounds that we come from, or they don't have access to the same things that we do. And we give out some gifts and we shake hands. We might do some mentoring, and we also have a professional speaker series. So the Society of Black Professionals, I think this year we did 3 so far, and we had some of our senior vice presidents come in and actually speak about, hey, over their 30 or 35 years, how did they get from being where we are today to where they are now? And it was really interesting to hear their perspective. And in some cases, it was like right place, right time. And in other cases, it was like they had an actual plan of what they wanted to do. And they put that plan, they planned their work and they worked their plan. So it's just nice to hear different perspectives, to hear about, what books they read, what helped them, who helped them. And when they didn't know something, how they went and found out that information so they could be effective. And then I talked about Corning, I talked about community, and now country. As I mentioned, it's very important to drive home the point that Corning is a global company, So it's not just about the US. It's about, what are we doing in Taiwan? What are we doing in Hong Kong, or what have you, in other places, to name a few. We had a question pop up, and do we need to address that now, or will that be later?
It's your call, Jermaine. However you wanna handle it. It's your shit.
Sure, throw one in there. I didn't get a chance to read it, but if you don't mind, I'll take some
absolutely.
as we go.
All right. So the first question was, how in depth are the interactions with ERGs from other locations, as Corning is a global company?
So it really depends. It's a challenging question. It's an excellent question. I would like to say that the focus is more regional, but on a quarterly basis, we may have a global, global interaction. But what's going on in Brazil is obviously going to be different than what's going on in the US. So although it may be one single ERG, the focus may be slightly different depending on the region, and what they're trying to accomplish may be slightly different depending on the region.
Thank you for that question, Sanam.
Outstanding. So I
right.
talked about, I'm sorry, I talked about the Society of Black Professionals, and that's what I was asked to speak on. And but what's interesting is we're actually combining, there's three Black ERGs. There's the Society of Black Professionals, there's the Black Technology Network, and there's the Black Growth Council. Fair question would be, why are there three? It doesn't make sense. Well, the reason there were three was because the Black Technology Network focused on those that were in technology roles. So they felt that it was more vital for them to have their own voice. And the Black Growth Council was focusing more on the manufacturing side, whereas the Society of Black Professionals was kind of an all-encompassing organization. So we've gotten together the leaders of all three, and we said, this really doesn't make a lot of sense. We've been doing it this way, but we're not getting the most bang for our buck. Our voice is not as loud as it could be. So why don't we combine and make one organization? And we're actually doing that right now. And it's going to be called the Corning Black Employee Network. This has been formally announced. We're moving forward. Larry McCray will continue to be he's our vice chairman of Corning, number 2 in the company, basically. He's going to continue to be our sponsor. And that's going to roll out in 2021. Technically, it's rolling out now, but officially 2021 will be on board in Q1. And we're really, really excited about this. And those three, as I stated, Black ERGs are going to transition to CBEN, is what we're calling it, the Corning Black Employee Network, so that we have one voice, one sound, we're all marching to the same beat and making sure that we're still accomplishing the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So I share that because if you were to join Corning next year, I don't want you looking for Society of Black Professionals, because we will no longer have that ERG in place. But everything that we've been working on will be included under the Corning Black Employee Network. And I will touch on that a little bit more as we go. So CBEN, the Corning Black Employee Network, as I mentioned, the focus is to unify and expand our reach, and we're going to form a single organization. The targeted rollout is 2021. Pretty much everything that you see here is already in place. So we've been working on this for about 18 months. This is not new. And our mission, as I mentioned earlier, but to go into a little bit more detail, and I'll read this, we're going to promote the growth, success, retention of Black employees across all job functions, all band levels. For those that may not know, band levels are pay levels and title level, position levels, and all locations through recruitment, advocacy, and career development. It's always important that we develop our employees, and this is happening across the company as a whole, but we're just focused specifically on Black employees who may come from different backgrounds. They may come from a different culture than what you traditionally might see at Corning, and we just want to make sure that their voice is heard as well, and that we can get the most out of our employees possible in order to have that one voice and in order to take care of the individual, which is one of the 7 Corning values. Still good?
Still good.
Outstanding. No questions. I love it.
That means you're doing a great job as a presenter.
Hey, I appreciate it, my friend. So you may ask, well, how are you going to take those 3 ERG groups and combine them into one? And we have kind of a global team here. I shouldn't say global, it's kind of more US focused, but these are the individuals that are going to help with the transition. Obviously, I'm on this team. You may have meetings with these individuals over this summer or what have you. So I included pictures and titles, and we're working literally, several meetings a week in order to get this done. And it's been huge. We've recently sat at roundtables with our CEO and some of the other leaders to talk about what's happening in the news and different things, because all of that impacts how we recruit, how we go about training and developing our people, whether or not people even want to work at Corning. Do they feel that Corning is the right place for them? Do they see people that look like them that work at Corning? Do they see an opportunity to work at Corning or an opportunity to grow? So that's why it's really important. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, doesn't matter what your religion is. You have to see people that look like you, that are being successful in the company in order for you to see yourself being in that company. And that's why ERG groups are very important. So if you come across any of these individuals, please mention CBEN, the Corning Black Employee Network. They'll be more than happy to talk to you, not just about this, but about anything. I mean, we do everything from mentoring to being advocates to training, professional development, or what have you. And many of these folks, some have been in Corning, looking at this list, over 35 years. You got some pretty senior people here. So in summary, and this is my last slide because this was really meant to just be a high-level overview of the ERG groups, including the Society of Black Professionals, which is transitioning to the Corning Black Employee Network. But D&I, or diversity and inclusion, you're going to hear that at Corning all the time. It's a business imperative. We can't work with Dell and Microsoft, which are two of my accounts, or Verizon, and we don't represent what society looks like or what their company looks like. They want us to be diverse, and that's very, very important, not just to our bottom line, but to our viability. So it is a business imperative, and please don't think that it's not. And it's also embedded in our values. So I talked about our 7 values, and we try to live those every day, all the time. And the most important of those 7 values is the individual. And that's what we're trying to do here, is value the individual. We talk about having a diverse company. Well, in order to have a diverse company, you have to be able to celebrate the differences. No one wants groupthink. You don't need 10 people in a room that all think alike, that come from the same area, the same culture. That's going to hurt any company. So we want to celebrate our differences. We want different points of view. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy working with Corning, and I have over the last 19 years. And it also is going to help unite us as one Corning worldwide. We're not perfect. We've got a long way to go. There's some things that we can definitely do better, but we're trying to head the right way in order to be a truly global, one Corning worldwide company. There's work to be done. And if you do join the company, I ask that you get your hands dirty. Don't just come in here and be quiet, but join one of the ERGs and participate, because I think that's only going to make all of us better. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, by doing all of these things that I just mentioned, it's going to inspire innovation. We're a technology company, and our goal is to change the world. And we can't do that without valuing one another, valuing differences, and uniting as one. And we need you to jump on the what I call the love bus and help us up that mountain, because we're going to need everyone in order to be successful. It's pretty much all I have, guys.
Good stuff, Jermaine. We did have a question come in while you were presenting. Is there a formal process for joining the ERG, CBEN?
So there is no formal process per se. So when you join the company, you have what's called onboarding. Onboarding is going to be a process where you work with AR, you work with your manager. They may have you go around and talk to different people. And typically what they do is they set up a meeting. If you're interested in the Society of Black Professionals, they'll set up a meeting where you can talk with a representative and they can give you all of the information. And then honestly, by default, you would become a part of that organization. So it's not like you're signing a contract. It's not like you're paying any dues. It's really a resource to help you become more successful.
Good question. And then one other one that came in was, have there been any virtual volunteering opportunities that have been executed by the SBP over the course of the pandemic?
I'm not following that question, a virtual volunteer.
Like, if I may, I'm thinking what they're asking is like, so I know obviously with the pandemic that's happening, it's not possible to actually get out and be active in the community per se with volunteering opportunities, but has there been any action or any thought to looking for opportunities where that can be done virtually?
Understood. So the short answer to that would be yes. We've definitely looked into that. But to be honest, if you look at the market as a whole, it's been a challenging time for a lot of companies. And I'm definitely not going to say that Corning's in survival mode. We're well positioned. We have, a lot of money. We're doing well, but we have been impacted by the environment, the pandemic, and the fact that we haven't been able to travel. That does impact your bottom line, not just with Corning, but with every company. So our focus at this time really has been, kind of righting the ship and making sure that we're positioned in order to be successful. So not that virtual initiatives aren't as important, but really over the last, since I guess March to now, we've really been focused on making sure that we're well positioned to navigate this storm that we're going through. But I do expect in the second half that we will have some training sessions that are virtual. And in that sense, we'll be reaching out to the community and to others in order to implement.
It's almost like you're clairvoyant, Jermaine. We had a question come in that same vein that they asked, do you guys hold any training or educational events throughout the year, whether it be for the group or for other employees?
Actually, we do. So we have a speaker series that we do, and it's usually 4 times a year. We try to do 1 per quarter. And we also have mentorship programs where you may meet with various mentors 6 times per year. That's really up to the individual. A lot of those are not face-to-face. As I stated, I live in Texas. A lot of people are up in Corning, New York. We have folks down in Brazil. I do work in Taipei. I'm in Hong Kong. I'm in Singapore. So I travel around the globe. So a lot of people that I meet with, it is via WebEx. And the mentorship is pretty neat because what I typically would do with someone is I'd sit down and I'd ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up, so to speak? What's important to you? And let's plan our work, and then we're going to work that plan. And then you hold them accountable and they hold you accountable. So it's not like you're simply just telling someone what to do. You're just helping to guide them through some of the pitfalls maybe that you've experienced or I've experienced over the last 19 years to make sure that their path up the mountain, I talked about my little love bus, is not as rough as it was for me. So yes, that does happen.
Outstanding. We do have one other question as well, Jermaine. Is it possible for an intern to be active in the ERG?
Short answer, I would say I do not believe so. It's possible for an intern that was working in the office, which our offices are starting to open back up, to maybe participate in some meetings. But far as being active, my understanding, and I will get back to you on this one, is you have to be a Corning employee. Now, if you are an intern, my understanding is you fall under that umbrella during that period. But once that period expired or you went back to school, I don't think you can participate in the meetings. But I will clarify that with management.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Do we have any others? Looks like we're good on questions, Jermaine.
Well, good. Well, I'd really like to thank you for your time. I appreciate each of you taking time to join this call. And please, if you need my information, I'll be more than happy to hand it out. If you have any questions about positions or different things that you possibly could do if you plan on joining Corning, I'll be more than happy to sit down and talk with you and see if we can help you along your way.
Outstanding. Thank you again for your time this morning, Jermaine. And again, good stuff. Obviously, we're all excited about the merging of the various ERGs into CBIN. I think that's going to be really exciting. I'm going to be watching that very closely to see how that shakes out, because I'm looking for additional opportunities in my role to, get the ERGs more involved in what we're doing at an early recruiting stage. So that's really exciting news to have. And then thank you to everyone who joined the call this morning as well, too. We know you could have been anywhere. But we're glad that you chose to spend some time with us this morning. And with that, we'll close it out. And again, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to Jermaine. Feel free to reach out to me, Etienne. Most of you should have my email as well. If not, I'll make sure to send an email out to the group so that we can make sure any additional questions that come up, we can get you guys some answers. So again, thank you guys, and we hope you guys have a good day and a good rest of the week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.